Can you kind of walk us through what the ultimate aspiration is for MetaPlanet in Japan? Like long-term business visions kind of aside from accumulation and Bitcoin yield and the stuff that we talk about, quite often.
Yeah, well, I mean, the number one kind of fiduciary corporate priority is obviously, growing shareholder value denominated in Bitcoin, and that's our focus, is providing maximum value on a Bitcoin standard to common shareholders. But kind of a second order vision, and I think we're familiar with this here, is we think Bitcoin's not just superior money, but it's going to revolutionize the capital markets. So we're really laser focused on channeling that revolutionary spirit into the equity markets, into the credit markets, fixed income. Outside of that, I think we also are really behind the scenes putting a lot of thought, time, and energy into thinking about how we can be a leader in Bitcoin in the Japanese market for kind of everything else. So we have examined our stack. What's our normal business practices if we're raising capital or buying Bitcoin or executing our income business, and we thought really long and hard about, and as we've kind of gotten a lot of the passive and active inbound from other Japanese corporates or other Japanese institutions or retail, and sort of thinking about how we can maybe play a role here as not just a Bitcoin treasury company or a company that's kind of monetizing on a Bitcoin standard, capitalizing on a Bitcoin standard rather, but also one that is kind of, if you think of like a neo financial institution built on Bitcoin, and kind of everything that would entail. So it's still early days, but a common sort of trope in the Japanese market, especially for people that aren't Bitcoiners, is this company does nothing but just buy Bitcoin. And I think the long arc of history will show. I think our vision is to be much more than just a company that buys Bitcoin. And we really want to be sort of a revolutionary player in the capital markets on this new asset. So it's still really early days for us. We've sort of just kind of ventured into one or two tools, and the operating business itself is still very simple, which is good. Investors love simplicity and an easy story, but I think we have a lot of things we're working on that we're excited about.
Awesome. Can you talk about how MetaPlanet kind of approaches volatility in its operations? Like, how has the company's strategy maybe evolved over the last couple of quarters as a result of the volatility?
Yeah, well, I think the good news for us at the helm is that we're Bitcoiners. So we've sort of seen a thing or two. I can only imagine kind of diving into the Bitcoin Treasury kind of craze earlier in the year as an operator, and then facing severe volatility, and it completely takes the wind out of your sails. For us, I think we're actually really undeterred by the volatility. Obviously, volatility in one direction is more favorable and more fun than volatility in the other direction, of course. But really, I think the business plan and the strategy and how we look at the day-to-day operations hasn't actually changed all that much in 12, 18 months. I mean, we've definitely learned a lot along the way, and we've cranked up our efficiency and effectiveness in various a lot of things we didn't know 12, 18 months ago that we do know, a lot of connections, a lot of investors that we know that we're kind of talking with on a pretty frequent basis. So in that sense, a lot of things have changed, but from the original vision, not all that much. We know that it's like a tool like common equity is really effective in certain conditions, and tools like non-dilutive debt financing are more effective and efficient in other conditions. So I don't think our outlook has changed all that much. We knew that there's going to be sort of an oscillation between hyper enthusiasm and then pessimism, and this isn't a company specific thing. This is just how markets work, how Bitcoin works, especially if you're capitalizing on Bitcoin. And so we've seen sort of everything, and the wide range of kind of outlooks from the in general investor community over the last 12 months. So I don't think all that much has changed. I think just a lot of perceptions have fluctuated wildly, but we're really undeterred. Our largest investors are really excited and happy with the future outlook of the business. And we're kind of looking forward to unlocking more tools in our arsenal to be more effective in all kind of life cycles of the business.
Got it. Can you walk us through how you think about, maybe you and Simon and the team think about the factors that inform MetaPlanet's current capital structure and leverage ratio? Because you're currently very deleveraged, like maybe less than 1% leverage. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. We've been very, diligent and intentional with our capital structure. Among the feedback we've received from the global investor community is just how clean and exceptional our balance sheet is, and I think we've had a lot of offers and a lot of kind of things come across our desk over the last 12 months. Stuff that would remain on the capital structure for half a decade or longer. But we really want to keep our max optionality open as we look towards the next phase, which we've communicated to the market is preferreds. So we have 2 classes of preferreds authorized. We'll share more when we can in terms of disclosures, but that's what the next phase of our business looks like, and I think we're optimizing for a really, really clean capital structure with maximum flexibility, because we think that could probably bring about the best terms. So anything senior to a preferred would, take away collateralization and take away a bit of margin of safety. And we think that, to optimize for, the best financing terms, our current capital structure is the leverage is intentional. It's not that we're bearish Bitcoin or that we don't want to take on leverage in the balance sheet. The very intention of our business strategy is to be perpetually leveraged long Bitcoin, and we outlined that last May in 2024. We said our intention is to be levered long BTC and levered short fiat forever. And so that's very much the intention. But we're not going to take out, bad debt. We don't want to take out anything that will cripple the shareholders or cripple the capital structure. So that's the intention. And, in due course, I think that leverage ratio will crank right up.
Strategy has publicly said that from a leverage standpoint, especially with preferreds, you could, leverage up more, to put it bluntly, like 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. Is that too aggressive, or is that kind of something in there from a kind of zoom out industry perspective, something that makes sense when you are in the perpetual sort of market where it could make sense to put on more leverage intelligently?
Yeah, I think we definitely have an open mind. We originally, our sort of blank slate sort of target for, max leverage ratio with preferreds is 25% of BTC NAV. But in our latest investor presentation, we established that, we're working on a lot of different kind of ancillary business lines or, arms of the business that we aim to generate revenue with. So we have our Bitcoin income generation business. We're looking to build out a sort of a multimedia, kind of all-in-one Bitcoin hub website called bitcoin.jp in Japan, and a few other sort of business lines that are under wraps right now that we're working on to generate revenue to pay more on preferred. So I think our intention is to ramp up the leverage ratio as much as we think is prudent, and we're not going to put ourselves in a box there. I think there's something to be said about this being in kind of a new phenomenon and instrument in the Japanese market. Our business model is very, very new and radical to some, the traditional investor community in Japan. So we're going to take it. We're moving as fast as we can. Compared to the traditional Japanese company, we're moving at light speed. We've called like 6 shareholder meetings in 18 months. Have done too many capital raises to count. And, a lot of these things would take probably, everything we just did in the last 18 months probably takes a normal Japanese company 5 or 6 years. So we're working as fast as we can. But yeah, I think, our intention is to get the market familiar and comfortable with these instruments as we roll them out, and then, really, really hit it with max scale. So yeah, I think the leverage ratio is really, you could take it as high as you can go, as long as the dividend burden is something that the company can afford, internalize, and it's dependent on the yield and really the revenues or incomes of the business, as well as kind of the equity market liquidity. So yeah, we're keeping an open mind. We've obviously run a lot of models, but I don't think it's going to be a lot higher than the leverage ratio currently, which is about 70 basis points.
Um, awesome. What are your macro thoughts on Bitcoin this year? I mean, Bitcoin has kind of underperformed gold year to date. All sorts of headlines kind of swirling around about gold going on a run, and then now they're taking some profits. Maybe some of those profits are going into Bitcoin. Um, you know, 4 year halving cycle, is it now like the 4 month halving cycle, or what is going on?
Yeah, it's I think it sort of reminds me, obviously a very different market environment, but it sort of reminds me of 2020 where everything was running and tech stocks were running and macro assets are running, and Bitcoin is sort of just coiling for, it was obviously at 9,000, the high was 20,000. So it was like sort of the tail end of a couple year bear market. So different conditions, but I think that's kind of how I am looking at it. It's, from the on-chain perspective, like my old life as an on-chain analyst, there's been a lot of old long-term holder money that's kind of sold, right? So in one kind of the optimist in me is saying, well, it's pretty remarkable. We're actually at 112,000 or whatever it is, just with the amount of kind of old OG coins that have been selling, right? So the ETFs, the treasury companies, other unknown actors are kind of gobbling up that whole supply. So I think eventually when we do break that high, we're going to really, really run. And for me, I'm not a big gold guy. I don't own really all that much gold at all, except for, the necklace around my neck. But I will say that, I view gold as sort of like the floor for the Bitcoin market, right? So, for a while we were saying 10 trillion and then 15, and now it's like 20, 25, 30 trillion, right? So that's sort of my bear case for Bitcoin. And I think that, the general investing community will, catch up to that view in due course. So yeah, I think it's good. It's definitely a bit ominous, to be frank, the gold run. I think it shows that a big debasement is coming, and countries, nations, big money in the know, not retail or even institutional, but sovereign level, regime change, macro regime change is coming, and that's what the gold market is telling me.
Awesome. Any closing thoughts, and where can people find you online if they're not already following you and MetaPlanet?
No, yeah, I think just in closing thoughts, I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate people tuning in. MetaPlanet investors, and thanks for all the support. We've, we've been a bit limited to what we can say and communicate publicly over the last month or two. So I would have liked to even share more, but yeah. So it's good to get out here though and have a chat. You can find me on Twitter. And, I think sometime in the next month or two or three or before year end, Tim will come in the studio and do a long rip and chat a bit more.
Awesome. Dylan, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Tim. Cheers.
Cheers.